Hey guys, hey, it's Anne-Marie, and this is the Anti-HR channel, and welcome to another story time. So, this story time is late. I acknowledge that. I am very tired. I just got back home, and so I wasn't able to get a video up for Friday. So, you're going to be seeing this on Saturday instead of Friday, but I will make sure that I'm back on my regular schedule of Monday and Friday videos next week. That being said, I wanted to do a quick story time that illustrates the way that people can undermine people in the workplace, and sometimes you won't even notice, right? So this is going to be a shorter video, but this is about the time that I had to protect an employee, someone that worked on my team, by getting rid of another person on the team because that person was undermining her and she didn't even notice it at the time. So, and I feel like I've mentioned, I don't think I've told this story on this channel, but I've told it to anecdotally before to other people, because sometimes I tell stories to people on discovery calls to illustrate things and clients. But I was working at an organization, a nonprofit. You guys know I've worked at lots of nonprofits. And my tenure was coming to a close. I was very unhappy in the role by that point. And my tenure was coming to a close. And we had some turnover for the person at the front desk, reception. And so I was in charge of, well, to give you a little context, I was in charge of operations, which is a role I did in a lot of jobs. And part of my job was oversight of administration of the organization, as well as oversight of HR and oversight of finance. But by that time, finance had been split. I remember I told you guys the story of how I helped that woman get the job as CFO, and then she undercut me. But so by this time, that person was in charge of finance. So I was now overseeing HR and administration primarily, right? And we had outsourced IT. I had also been responsible for IT, but then I had outsourced IT. So the person who I outsourced it to reported to me, but I was no longer like day to day having to deal with that. But I was managing an admin, and part of admin was everything to do with admin. So office supplies, front desk, making sure the kitchens, and it was a big office. We had multiple kitchens. I had moved them to a really beautiful office space which we had renovated to our specs, open floor plan, really nice kitchen area. And, we had the staff that was responsible for maintaining and taking care of all that stuff reported to me. So I had a person below me who was kind of like the office manager. And she was responsible for making sure that everything was set up the way that people needed, and that people, the coffee and the this and the that, and And she was wonderful, wonderful person. Really hardworking, really just a really wonderful person, and really sweet. Younger at the time, and just really come in. She was, and at the time she was married with 2 young children, and yet she was always available. Like if you needed someone to come in early and take care of something, she would say, "I'll do it," and she would do it. I don't know how she even did everything that she did. She was an amazing person, rock star. But there was a lot of like chaos because of the management there, and issues, which is why I decided to leave the organization. And so by the time this occurred, I decided to leave the organization. But we had brought in a temp, a white male, to sit at the front desk in reception, because the person who was in that role had left, and we hadn't filled the position permanently. So we had a temp agency bring somebody and put the person to sit there. And from the time this person came in, he was very ingratiating, always, do you need anything? Always sucking up to me. And, I would always be like, you report to the office manager. The office manager supervised the person on the front desk. So I would always, find a reason to come to my office to talk to me about something, and I would redirect him to that person because I'm like, you're talking to the wrong person. You need to talk to her. She's your boss. If you have a question about something you're supposed to be doing, talk to her. But he was always showing up at my office, and when I would come in the morning, oh, do you want me to get you coffee? That's okay. I get my own coffee. That kind of thing. I always found those kind of people suspect. People that suck up to me, I don't like it when people suck up to me. I never did. It always made me wonder what they're up to, right? Because you don't need to suck up to anybody to be effective and to do your job. The best way to show your worth is to do your job well, right? So you don't need to be sucking up to people. So I was suspicious of him from the start because of that. And then I would, observe him chatting up other members of management, ingratiating himself. So part of the decision of mine to leave was I was not happy with certain decisions that management had made over time. They were a very unethical bunch of people, and very untrustworthy. And they had made one of the managers, they had an interesting management model. They had a president, and then they had a group of managing directors, about 5 or 6 people who reported to the president. Those people then oversaw projects for the company. And they had selected one of the managing directors. The president selected one of the managing directors and made her COO. No discussion, no nothing, just gave her the job. No competition, no application, no job announcement, nothing. Just gave this person a job. And that person is now president of the organization and was also given that job with no competition, no nothing. And is still president to this day, white woman. And the thing is, I don't necessarily think the person's unqualified, but how do you know that if there was no process to put them in, if they were just installed, right? So I announced my departure. And one of the reasons I decided to leave that organization is because the person that they put in the role of president, who was the CEO at the time, had decided that she didn't need to follow federal labor rules and standards, right? This person told me in a meeting, and I quote, that those laws and rules are for people who work at McDonald's, unquote. I will always quote that. She didn't feel that the Fair Labor Standard Act that decides whether people should get overtime was applicable to people in the organization. That was for people at McDonald's. And I had to say, I beg to differ. But you can't have people working 12, 13-hour days who are in entry-level jobs. They're supposed to get overtime. And she didn't want to reclassify their jobs. And that was one of the reasons I decided to leave. So I noticed that this person, the person at the reception desk, is coming to me to point out things the office manager hasn't done. So basically he's coming to tell me things, but he's trying to couch it as him being helpful. Or when I don't know if you noticed, but he's basically undermining the person who's his supervisor, right? And when he first did it, I kind of said to him, oh, you should go discuss that with her. Then he did it again. And then I was like, And I mentioned to the office manager, I just asked the office manager, how is this person doing? And she was like, oh, he's great. He's doing a good job. He's very helpful, da-da-da-da-da. He really wants to learn a lot and ask lots of questions and so and so. And then the COO, in passing, asked me something about the same guy at the front desk. Now, remember, this is the receptionist who says, good morning, answers the phone, directs people to places. Most companies don't even have receptionists, but these people wanted one, so we had one. Refills the coffee stuff. This is a low-level, entry-level job. And she's asked me what I thought. Let's call him Greg. She asked me what I thought of Greg. And I basically was like, I don't think anything of Greg. I think he's fine. He's a temp. Why? Oh, well, he seems like such a nice guy, and he's expressed his interest in, staying here and doing, asking, he's so helpful and blah, blah, blah. So right away, my spidey sensors go off. What is Greg up to? Greg is trying to get him a permanent job, right? But what I realize is the permanent job that Greg wants is the office manager job. Greg doesn't want to be the receptionist. Greg wants to be the office manager, right? And so, again, I said something to the office manager, but I didn't say to her, anything yet, because I'm still observing. But then I have a conversation with the CEO at one point, because I'm getting ready, we're transitioning. I'm agreeing to put together transition documents and so on, because I'm getting ready to leave. And I'd given them 30 days notice. And she kind of says to me, well, excuse me, there had been some other upheaval in the office due to her BS. And I think we were also we had a temporary HR person. The HR person had left also because of the refusal of the organization to follow labor laws, which is what precipitated my decision to leave also. And so she says to me, we've had a lot of turnover in your team. And so I think it's a good idea for us to not replace, for you to not replace anybody else before you leave. Right? She said something like that to me. And just to be clear, I didn't report to her. I reported to the president. The president was my boss and her boss. And I said, okay, I'll take that under advisement. I might not have even said anything at the time when she said that to me. Because my thing is, it's my team, to do what I want. Right? I don't believe in asking anybody permission to do the job that I've been hired for. So I just thought it was kind of interesting that she felt she had the right to tell me about whether or not I should have any more turnover on the team. Also not acknowledging that a lot of the reason for the turnover on the team was because of the actions of the company and not mine. So, but I am observing this guy chatting people up. Then someone else says something to me, but this time it's something critical of the office manager. And I know where it came from. It came from him. And so I thought to myself, I'm getting ready to leave this organization. And I'm going to leave this black woman, the office manager was a black woman, here alone. I brought her in there. She had been working with me. She was one of my first hires when I came in there. I needed to hire someone in that role. And I hired her, and she had been loyal, hardworking, just a really all-around wonderful person. And I was like, if I leave her with this guy here, he's going to eat her for breakfast, because I don't think she even realizes that he's after her job, that he wants her job, and that he's undermining her. He's going around and criticizing her to other people, but trying to do it in that I'm being helpful kind of way that some of them try to play. And so I made an executive decision, and I called the agency, and I told them that Greg was no longer a good fit for my team and that I would like him to be replaced with someone else. And they said, certainly, we'll have a new person there on Monday. And then on Friday, before I left for the day, and then I called the office manager in, and I told her what I had decided to do. And I told her why. And she stopped and said, he did this thing, said this thing, did this thing. But I just didn't think that. I just thought he was trying to be helpful. And I said, I don't think he was trying to be helpful. And I was like, the thing is, if I was still going to be here, it wouldn't matter. But I'm leaving. And I don't want to leave you in a position where you're going to be undermined by this person. And then they will try to push you out the door to give him your job. So I decided that this is what is going to happen, and I did it. And I told her I will send the email message out announcing that there will be a new person at the front desk on Monday, because this wasn't your call, it was mine. Right? And she thanked me. She said, I appreciate what you did. I understand why you did it. I really didn't see it. She said, but now that I think about everything that you explained to me, I understand. Right? And so Greg was gone. Right? And so on Monday, on my way out the door, I sent a message just saying, please welcome such and such who will be rejoining the team. Greg's, gone. But Greg is gone. Say goodbye to Greg. Say hello to so-and-so. This person will be at the front desk. And this new person came and they were fine. So Miss COO comes by my office and closes the door, sits down, and then says, I thought we had a discussion where I asked you not to replace anybody else on your team without discussing it with me. And I looked at that heifer and I said, excuse me, but for the next 2 weeks, I am still overseeing operations. And as such, I made a decision. I made the decision that he was not a good fit for my team, and so he is gone. If you would like to bring him back to go work on one of your teams, knock yourself out. But he's not going to be on my team. And she was all left my office in a huff. But the bottom line is that Greg was gone. And so I left that organization and I went elsewhere. And that's when I went to work for the Handmaiden of the Devil. I told you all about that job that lasted only for about 8 weeks. 6 weeks before I decided I was leaving. And about 10 to 12 weeks before I was actually out the door. But the moral of the story is, again, use your power. And don't apologize. Sometimes you can see things other people can't see because of your vantage point and your experience. Use it for good and not for evil. And don't worry about what the consequences might be. And especially when there ain't going to be no consequences, go full forth and do it. Right? I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to protect her. She's been loyal to me. I'm going to be loyal to her. And so I left, and I left her in a good position. She got promoted, got a big raise after I left. Then she eventually left and went to another company, got a offer to pay her more money, more responsibility. I gave her a glowing reference. And I think I've given her another reference since then. And she's out in the world living life and doing well. But for me, the point was I could see what was coming if I left Greg at the reception desk. I saw what Greg was trying to do. Greg thought that nobody could see him, but I saw him as clear as day. I've seen lots of Gregs in my career. Right? And I was like, you're not on my watch, sir. You're not going to undermine this woman and try to take her job from her. Right? With all your I'm being helpful and, oh, can I make a suggestion? And, oh, I'm just trying to help. BS. Go help somewhere else. So we said goodbye to Greg. Right? And I didn't care about what COO Karen thought about it. I did what I thought was the right thing to protect the person who had earned it. And this person wasn't doing her job poorly. If anything, she was overwhelmed because she was trying to do so many things and do everything for everybody. And what she needed was people underneath her who were going to step up and help, not try to be critical and not try to undermine her, right? And so I was like, I could see this person doing things to set her up and really make her look bad. And I wouldn't be there to have her back, right? So I was like, let's take care of this before I leave. And so I did. So the moral of the story again is sometimes you can see things that other people can't see. And when you can, you have a responsibility to do something. Right? And sometimes you got to move in silence. I didn't even say anything to her before I did it. I just did what I thought needed to be done. So it gave her deniability after the fact because she got to say, I had no idea she was going to do that. When the person came to her, and COO Karen did go and say something to her. And she was like, I don't know, you would have to speak to my boss about that. Right? That was her call in this particular instance. It wasn't mine. And I told her to say that. If anybody asks you anything, you tell them, come talk to me. This is my decision. It's not your decision. But I'm making this decision because I think it's in your best interest. Right? And so I really think it's important for us to realize that it's okay to make these calls, right? So that's my story time for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. I have another one that's my kid. I was telling my kid this story a day or so ago. And when I told them the story, they told me that they felt that I should put that story also on my channel because they said, that's going to go viral. I'm not really interested in going viral. And it's a very sensitive issue. And so I haven't decided whether I'm going to even tell the story. And if I do, whether I will do it on YouTube. I may just do it in my anti-HR community, which is a great segue to, have you joined the anti-HR community? If you haven't, why haven't you? It's only $12 a month for annual membership. And in the anti-HR community, I provide resources. I provide free access to master courses. To a master course, I provide free access to several ebooks and other resources to help you understand your workplace, to help you understand your workplace rights. And if you are seeking to exit from a discriminatory hostile work environment with and through a separation with severance, I provide free access to information about how to do that as well in the community. It's also a place where we talk about HR issues and share information about HR issues. We're going to be having our first mini consulting session this week, where I am going to make myself available only to the members of the community, to the paying members of the community, where they will be able to ask me questions and get advice and get coaching from me in real time in a live session, a live group consulting session. So if that's something that you think would be helpful to you, then you should join the anti-HR community. As I said, membership is $12 a month for an annual membership, $20 a month for a monthly membership. You can join at the link in the description of this video or by visiting my website, the anti-HR-hrlady.com. I hope I said that correctly. I will put the video, I will put a link to my website and a link to all this information in the description of this video. It's kind of late. I'm kind of tired. But I really would encourage you to use the community as a resource. As I said, part of the reason I created it is there are things that I want to say that I don't necessarily feel comfortable saying on YouTube, including this story about the time that I had to ferret out and remove a pedophile from the ranks of my organization. That's the story I was telling the kiddo that he feels that I should tell people about. But I think that it's a very sensitive story. It's a very funny story also. But I am going to probably share that one in the community. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please take a moment, hit the subscribe button. Then please like, comment constructively, share this video with a friend. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.